Hello and welcome to Weekly MTG. And boy, howdy, do we have a show for you today. Joining us to this, I never do this right. It's this way. Nope, it's this way. Anyway, on my left is Dan Musser. Hi, Dan. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Blake.
Yeah, so Dan, you did some work on a little set called Modern Horizons 2. Can you tell me and the audience at home what your role was?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I was a designer on pretty much every part of the design process for Modern Horizons 2. Um, the sets start in a process called vision design, where we're laying a lot of the groundwork. I was on that team, followed by set design, where many of the cards get created, followed by what some people know as FFL or final design, where we really set the cards through their paces, play a bunch of games, and fine tune the numbers and stuff.
Yeah. So Dan's going to tell us some stories behind some cards, some stories behind design, and we have an even dozen cards to show off today. I'm not kidding. We're doing it right. 12
I don't have
cards.
enough
We're going to show off
fingers.
12 cards today. If you look at the bottom, we've got previews. So the MH2 preview section will be all the new cards that we're showing off today. Reprints will be some reprints in the set that we are also showing off today. And then if we have time, we'll do a little Q&A at the end, but hold your questions. We're not going to be watching chat that closely just yet, but once we get to the Q&A section, if we have time, we'll put Dan through the paces and see what he's got to say about things. But before we get to all of that, we've got a little bit of news to go over. So, a couple things happened this week, yesterday and today specifically. First up, if you haven't heard the news, Thassa's Oracle is gone away in historic, ban in historic Thassa's Oracle. Goodbye, Merfolk Wizard. Yeah, no more to say about that. It's gone. We're okay with that. Uh, And then this morning, if you're a fan of D&D, you may have seen a video all about Dritz. And in that video, they were kind enough to show off three cards from the upcoming Adventures in the Forgotten Realm set coming out later this summer. We showed off three cards. There's a little Spider Queen, a Planeswalker for 3 and 2 black. Whenever a creature you control dies, put a loyalty counter on little Spider Queen. For 0, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. -3 loyalty. Create 2/2/1 black spider creature tokens with Menace and Reach. And then -8, you get an emblem with whenever an opponent is dealt combat damage by 1 or more creatures you control. If that player lost less than 8 life this turn, they lose life equal to the difference. It's a lot of words there. Next up, Brunner Battlehammer is 2 and a red and a white for a legendary creature, Dwarf Warrior. Each creature you control gets +2/+0 for each equipment attached to it, and you may pay 0 rather than pay the equip cost of the first equip ability you activate each turn. It's 5/3. Brunner is also one of the, along with Dritz, one of the 4 playable characters in the upcoming Dark Realms, or Dark Alliance game. Getting my D&D world set up mixed up. And then, of course, Dritz has 3/3 legendary creature, Elf Ranger for 3, a green, and a white. Double strike. When Dritz enters the battlefield, create a equally unpronounceable cat, a legendary 4/1 green cat creature token with trample. Whenever a creature dies, if it had power and toughness greater than Dritz's power, put a number of +1/+1 counters on Dritz equal to the difference. Again, these are all coming in Adventures in the Forgotten Realm. These are not our previews today. These don't count among the 12. But if you hadn't seen them already, figured we'd show them off because they're pretty cool and they came out today. So, Dan, let's talk Modern Horizons 2.
Yeah, I was
Um,
really excited to hear you pronounce the name of the cat, though. I was looking
yeah,
forward to that.
that's so. I'm very D&D adjacent. I've never actually played D&D. Little confession here. I need to, but I don't know how to pronounce.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think
don't
we
know how to
just
pronounce it.
called the cat Gwen in testing.
Yeah,
It's
that makes sense.
not.
Um, Speaking of testing, let's start with you saw this character if you watched the loading screen for this stream, if you've seen the box. So the first card we're going to show, we're just going to jump right into these cards. Gosh, talk about mispronouncing things. Dakin Shadow Slayer. So let's throw him up on the screen. There are 3 versions of Dakin. For a white, a blue, and a black, a 0 loyalty legendary planeswalker enters the battlefield with a number of loyalty counters on him equal to the number of lands you control. +1, surveil 2. -3, exile target creature. -6, you may put an artifact card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield. And of course, you see there's the extended art or borderless version of Planeswalker and a sketch version, which is one of the cool things we're doing with Modern Horizons 2. So, Dan, tell us a little bit about where this card came from.
Yeah, so we learned a lot from Modern Horizons 1. One of the really cool things we can do with the Horizon set is just kind of go places that other Magic sets can't really go, whether it
Mm-hmm.
be in a time that doesn't exist anymore, or just a bunch of different cool areas from Magic's past. Dakon, I don't know, you call it Dakon, like bacon Shadow Slayer. I don't know. I think we call it, yeah.
Yeah,
Call back to I believe it's Legends, original Legends.
it is.
Was an Esper creature, probably cost 5, and it keyed off the number of lands you had in play. That's how big it was,
Mm-hmm.
power and toughness. We made a little bit of an exception here. That's not really something Esper colors care about anymore. It's more of a green thing, but it was such a flavorful callback that we really wanted to make that happen here. So we got some buy off from the color pie to get the loyalty counting the number of lands, which we thought was really, really cool. That's kind of where the card
Mm-hmm.
started. We didn't really really know what else. The original Dakon didn't really do much else. But throughout the story, Dakon became a planeswalker. We never really got to show that in a card form. There wasn't really an opportunity. So uh, another cool thing is we had, you know, recently, I guess I'm not going to claim to be, all the ins and outs of the art world, but Richard Kane Ferguson, I think, also did the original Dakon.
He did.
So having him
Yep.
back to do this was, monumental, awesome. That art
Yeah.
style is really, really cool and makes a lot of sense in a Horizons set where maybe other sets it's not going to, go as well with the rest of the art pieces.
Yeah. And
As
this
far
is
as the
not actually
abilities,
the last. Oh, go ahead.
go ahead. Oh, sorry. I
I was just
didn't
gonna,
want
I
to
was just
interject
going to
there.
say it's not the last Richard Kane Ferguson piece we're going to be showing off today, even.
Ooh, more
Mm-hmm.
exciting tidbits
More
of
more
information.
RKF. Yeah. Okay. So the abilities. Go on about the abilities.
Yeah. So like Dakin has a sword. Dakin cares kind of about like equipment slash artifacts. There wasn't a huge equipment sub theme in the set, so we just kind of let that last ability work on artifacts. The common scheme of like a value option, a possibly defend me option, and then sort of like an ultimate we wanted to preserve here. So while
Mm-hmm.
surveilling isn't drawing you any cards, however you construct your deck, you're going to add some loyalty and definitely get some filtering. It works really well with the -6 here, and whatever else you build your deck to do. Uh, the -3, there's a funny story behind that one. Um, we just wanted a removal option, fairly, strong for modern removal option. Uh, the name we knew the whole time. Like names kind of change a lot in the process, but Dakon's name just kind of made sense at the time, the Shadow Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
And we almost put the line on there, exile target creature without Shadow, but that didn't make a lot of sense and was also kind of just weird. But Shadow being a magic mechanic, we tried to fit it in there. It just made the card
Mm-hmm.
weirder than we wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the -6, we played around with just equipment, but that was too narrow, even though it was more flavorful for Flametongue. So we went with the full artifact. Hey, reanimate or show and tell, I guess, an artifact into play.
Very cool. And I saw
Very
some
powerful
questions
too.
in chat on is surveil back, blah blah blah. So I want to talk in a second about mechanics in Modern Horizons 2 because that's not the only returning mechanic, but a great way to set that up is our next preview card. So why don't we go into this and take a look at Timeless Dragon, which gets me right in the feels as someone who played with Eternal Dragon back in the day. But Timeless Dragon is a 3 white creature dragon with flying. It's a 5/5. It has plane cycling, which lets you pay 2 to discard and search your library for a planes card, notably a planes, not a basic planes. So it can get dual lands. And then it has Eternalize. So for 2 and 2 white, you can exile this card from your graveyard to create a copy, except it's a 4/4 black zombie dragon with no mana cost. Eternalizes a sorcery. So yeah, this and of course here you see the extended art version. You see the old border. Really cool callback to Eternal Dragon, but also again, it's got the ability plane cycling. It's got Eternalize. We just saw Surveil. So Dan, what's going on with mechanics in this set?
So mechanically, the set doesn't really care where mechanics are coming from, as long as, yeah, they just kind of make sense on the card we're making. One of the really
Mm,
cool things that Horizon sets lets us do is sort of mash up different keywords that never existed in the same block or set together. And you see that here with sort of the plane cycling and the eternalize. Yeah,
mm-hmm,
so plane cycling lets you put the thing in the graveyard, and eternalize lets you do something as a reward for having put that creature into the graveyard. This is a top-down nostalgic callback to what Eternal Dragon, the 7 mana
mm-hmm,
Scourge rare, and there wasn't a lot like this card just kind of made itself pretty much, other than maybe the numbers on the cards a little bit. We know we were
mm-hmm,
gonna have plane cycling. It was gonna be a white dragon. It was gonna fly. It was probably gonna be a 5/5. Uh, and then the Eternalize, clearly Eternalize wasn't a mechanic back in Scourge, but the
mm-hmm.
card, we chose that ability because the original card's named Eternal Dragon. So the name
Yeah,
of this card for a long, long time was Eternalized Dragon. Ooh. but
I would have been
but that
just as
wasn't,
happy with that.
yeah,
The
yeah,
name
it's
is
not.
good, but that's it. Yeah,
We put a lot of
yep.
names in during, many parts of the process, and they're,
Mm-hmm.
funny and resonant with whatever it is. But we have a,
Yeah.
awesome creative team that handles that at the end.
Okay. So should we expect to see a lot of this kind of mix and matching of abilities in the set?
Yeah, it's one of the coolest things that the Horizon sets lets us do. How do abilities from 20 years ago work with abilities from 5 years ago, or whatever the time
Mm-hmm.
frame may be? That's a lot of unexplored space that sets just can't normally, play around with, and the freedom here
Mm-hmm.
lets us do that.
Yep, makes sense. All right, let's move on to the next card. So I think one of the cool things about these Horizon sets too is they can very, because they're targeting modern and a lot of archetypes are known. They can very specifically target certain archetypes that aren't tier one and maybe even aren't tier two and are kind of on the low end and give them a little something extra. And I think this one falls into that category. So let's take a look at Rishadan Dockhand. This is a single blue mana for a creature merfolk. It's a 1/2, has Island Walk, and it has one tap target land. Pretty simple looking card, but this is a callback to a very, very powerful card. And of course, it says merfolk costs 1 mana, which is sort of a gap in merfolk's uh, repertoire, I guess. Yeah, so Dan, what's the story behind the Dockhand here?
Yeah, this card was actually created all the way back in Vision Design, which is the earliest part of design, where we're just kind of throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what sticks, what sounds cool, what can we execute on, all that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So a lot of the mashups and sort of like callbacks and maybe a little bit more lighthearted cards come from that exploration. But this one was always 1 mana. I think it started as a 1/1 and just had the tap ability.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, tap target land and Rashad and Port are, what would we say, contentious magic cards slash abilities. People don't like their lands
Yeah.
messed with very much, but that's not to say everybody doesn't like doing that kind of thing. So there's a pretty aggressive, what we say, rate on this card. 1 mana, one to activate. It's not the smallest creature. 1/2 could have been a 1/1. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, we tested it. We put it in a bunch of Merfolk decks. We put it in some lockdown decks. It is, without having Legacy's tools of like, Stifle and Wasteland and that kind of stuff, it didn't have a lot of extra, support around it to really,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, move us in the direction of, oh my gosh, this is too much. It's definitely an interesting inclusion and really cool callback, and hopefully, yeah, add some texture to the modern Merfolk deck. They already make things islands. Maybe if this is out, you can tap down the thing that's not an island, and start getting in with your other Merfolky friends.
Yeah. And for those of you who were paying attention to Mark Rosewater's teasers for Modern Horizons 2, one of the things he teased was a legendary creature, Merfolk God, So that is not the last Merfolk that you're going to see. We are not previewing that card today, but it exists. It exists. Um, Next up, we are going to look at a very powerful card that is one card of a cycle. So let's put Grief up on the screen. So Grief is a 3/2 for 2 and 2 black. It is a creature, elemental incarnation. It has menace. When Grief enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. But then here's the real powerful card. Evoke, exile a black card from your hand. So this can be free to evoke. Dan, tell us about Grief.
Yeah, like you said, this is the part of a 5 card cycle. They are mythic elementals, all of which are going to have this evoke, exile a card of the color, and you get to cast it. Then it will get
Mm-hmm.
sacrificed if since you pay the evoke cost instead of its normal cost. But yeah, this one, modern is fast. It's got a lot of threats. It is nice to have certain cards that answer those things. And since modern is so fast, sometimes we wanted players to have the option to be able to do that without, necessarily spending mana. A whole card is quite a cost, but in a pinch, you can play this on turn 1 or 2 and nab, whatever thing you can't handle otherwise. Uh, Initially, I think for a long time we had this card as sort of a unmoored ego cranial extraction type variant.
Mm-hmm.
But in testing, we found that that was just doing a bit too much. In Modern Horizons 1, we made the card ephemerate, for example. There's many other effects like that that just like blink a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you could play this on turn 1 with your land open, put it into play, put the evoke trigger on the stack, blink it, double cranial them. They have no threats left in their
Jeez.
deck. Oh, super sad. So yeah, that was a bit much. Um, I think another interesting knob. Uh, ooh, what's a knob? A knob is a dial we can turn on a card to adjust its power. So casting cost, power, toughness, keywords. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this used to be a little bit, I think, smaller, like a 3-drop, and it was just coming out like just a bit too fast. So I think we liked it where it ended up. It's thought seizing people. You don't lose life, and strong as a 4 mana play, strong as a 0 mana play. Yeah, this is doing a lot of work for us.
Yeah, and you'll note actually, Sean. Let's put that back up on the screen. So we can note that this actually has the borderless treatment rather than the extended border treatment. So there are a selection of cards from this set that get this special full art treatment. So this is similar to what we've done and some sets in the past where we pick out some cards that are just really cool, give them some alternate art, give them the full frame. um, so yeah, that is a another cool variant. Those versions can come in all boosters. All right. Next up, all right, let's move on to let's stick in black and let's look at some more Richard Kane Ferguson art because why wouldn't we want to? Next up, we have Profane Tutor. Profane Tutor has no casting cost. It is a sorcery, as suspend 2 for 1 and a black. Search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, and then shuffle that old the retro frame with Richard Kane Ferguson art. Just it makes me feel all of the feelings, um, which is exactly what it's trying to do. But yeah, Dan, tell us about the creation of this card.
Yeah, I think you're trying to say it looks. Oh, I like that. That's the one we choose to make bigger. Yeah, it definitely
Yeah.
looks amazing. It brings me back to my early days, arcane denials and stuff like that. But yeah,
Oh
profane
yeah.
tutor, a very clear callback to demonic tutor, and
Hmm.
but no mana cost. The kind of there's a cycle of these with ancestral vision and restore balance and all that kind of stuff that sometimes do stuff in modern. We wanted to revisit that a little bit. Modern, we're not going to put suspend probably or 0 mana, actual no mana cards in any standard set. Who knows what we'll do in standard, but this is a thing that modern likes, and There's not a super strong tutor effect in modern. This is another 5 card cycle. I can't remember if you said that, but there's going to be one of each of these for all the colors. Is there a bonus 6 card in the cycle? I'll just say there's a bonus 6 card in the cycle. Who knows where that one lives in the set? Um, but yeah, not much to say. We played around with the ability on the card. Never once changed. It was demonic tutor the whole time, and
Hmm.
clearly there's no mana cost to mess around with. But we did mess around with the suspend number and the suspend cost. I think numbers ranging from 1 to 4 entered both of those. Well, I think 1 and 2 on the cost and 1 to 4 on the suspend number. It's
Hmm.
hard to exactly say, but yeah, there's not much we could mess around with if we wanted to make this card in terms of changing stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we end up in a good spot on turn 2. You can suspend this, find your combo piece on turn 4, and you got all your mana to abuse your opponent. Hopefully, defend
Yeah.
yourself, cast your sweet spell, cast Dack the card. Find him.
Definitely powerful. We're gonna take a break from previewing cards because some random named FF Freak MTG just jumped into chat. He said he's having a blast watching and he's nervous about how much he can and cannot talk to you. So that's for those who don't know. That's Brad Nelson. Dan, why don't we take a pause and talk a little bit about bringing people in and how you guys tested this set?
Yeah. So the final part of design, whether you call it FFL or final design or development, is where we get to build a lot of decks, play a lot of Magic, and fine tune the cards. So for this set, we brought in a few outside voices, outside
Hmm.
minds to help us out. So the final team we had testing the decks, building the decks, testing the cards, giving feedback, and making changes, iterating was myself, Michael Majors, Zach Elsick. So those people that were in the building at the time, Wizards employees, and then we also brought in
Hmm.
Sam Black, Brad Nelson, and Brian Braunduin to help us out,
Yeah.
build decks, and yeah, give feedback on cards
Yeah.
and change cards.
Yeah. And Sam and Brad are actually going to be joining us on Weekly MTG in 2 weeks once the set is fully revealed to talk about their experience, tell some stories behind some of the cards. So look to hear more from them. They're very excited about the set. They both have a couple preview cards. So uh, yeah, really, really cool that we had them involved in this. All right, let's get back to previewing cards. We're not even halfway through. We're almost halfway through.
Woo.
We're not halfway through yet. Next up is a card called Unmarked Grave. That is clearly a new take on an old card. For 1 and a black, it's a sorcery. Search your library for a non legendary card. Put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle. Dan, what is this card?
This looks pretty strange without some other stuff that may or may not be in the set. So 2 mana, put something in your graveyard from your deck. Can't be a legend. Uh, Call back to Entomb from oh gosh, I'm gonna forget Odyssey maybe. But yeah, that was
Yeah, I
the
think
one
so.
mana instant that found anything. This is clearly a bit weaker than that, but we wanted it to be in modern, and Entomb probably does some pretty nasty stuff.
Hmm.
The black, just as a couple other anecdotes, the black white limited theme in the set is based on Reanimator. So this is a pretty good thing to put, whatever giant monster you find in your draft into the graveyard and then reanimate it. But also, we wanted to give some support to Reanimator in modern, but not just like have you find, Grizzlebrand every time and that's like the thing you get kind of no matter what.
Yep.
So the non-legendary hopefully opens up the window for, Terrastodon, Sire of Insanity, any other giant cool monster we put in the set. Um, and yeah, this works with like the Dakkon we saw earlier. If you want to find a big artifact, put it in your graveyard, then cast the Dakkon. That'll work pretty well for you. So yeah, I guess it's worth saying stay tuned for some more support around this kind of thing. Hopefully it props up some cool new modern archetypes, and modern's pretty good at dealing with castable things that target things in a graveyard.
So you mentioned one of the black-white archetypes in limited. What are some of the other archetypes in Modern Horizons 2 limited?
Yeah, so I don't know if I can like really I don't really remember what card's coming up next, but I could probably segue us pretty well by saying something like red green limited archetype is actually Storm, which is a pretty strange limited archetype to have.
Okay.
So we'll find some Storm cards in the set, and one of the big cards we're going to look at maybe next, maybe in a couple cards, kind of
I think
plays
the
into
one you're
that a little
thinking of
bit.
is 2 cards. You know what? I think
Oh,
producer Sean is
dang it.
really good at his job. I bet he can put up the green legend that you're referring to next. Throsta Tempest's Roar.
Rawr.
Cool. We went a little bit out of order, but you know what? Worth it for a 12 mana, 10 and 2 green legendary creature dinosaur. This spell costs 3 less for each other spell cast this turn. It has trample, it has haste, it has trample over planeswalkers. Throsta Tempest Roar has hexproof as long as it entered the battlefield this turn, and it's a 7/7. Uh, Plus, it's got that sweet, sweet borderless treatment. Dan, there's a lot going on here. Please explain.
Right, Roar, indeed. Throsta, Tempest Roar, 12 mana. Not really 12 mana, come on, this is modern. So, yeah, we wanted a storm. So, like I said, the green-red limited archetype Storm. Not that like this Mythic is going to play, you're not going to see it a ton, right, when you're drafting, but you will see it every once in a while. And if you do get the Storm deck and you get this at the same time, woo-wee, that's going to be pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Modern has had various Storm decks, but the payoffs are usually, kill you instantly or make millions of goblins or whatever. So this is something in a little different space where you don't need to storm the full like, you know, 20 storm count to really play this. You can storm off like 3 or 4 cards, and then you got a 3 mana 7/7 trample, haste, trample again, hexproof again, whatever. So yeah, this thing his the mana cost was all over the place. Depending on what decks we could build that week that contained it. The cost reduction went from like 2 to 4. It was always going to have haste and trample, but yeah, Modern doesn't have like the maybe the best way to kill a lot of planeswalkers. So we thought it'd be pretty cute if this could trample over planeswalkers, kind of in a similar. It's doing a similar thing to Questing Beast in both word count and
Mm-hmm.
the planeswalker interaction. Um, and then if you did all the work to play this cool dinosaur and it just got, Path to Exiled, you'd be pretty sad. So at least we are going to let you hit once with it, right? You can get hexproof the turn it
Mm-hmm.
enters, so it's kind of free reign to seven them. But also we put legendary on a lot of cards for a lot of reasons, right? If like they're sweet and commander, or um, they're just a character that we already have and really want to, tell a story around. Thras is like a new character we just kind of put in this spot. But playing legendary here actually more so was because we were having a lot of turns where you could play a couple of these in the same turn,
Mm.
and that's a lot of damage. So yeah, sort of as a development knob, we legendaryized this good old
Mm-hmm.
dinosaur, and yeah, so one a turn.
I mean,
Let them answer it, then do
that's a
it again.
pretty legendary dinosaur there. So I don't think anyone's gonna blink twice at that.
All right.
All right.
Before you go on to the
Speaking of
next thing,
red
I don't mean
green.
to keep
Oh yeah,
interrupting you, but they're asking
you
me to
need to
pet
pat
my
the dog.
dog, and they're just, they won't stop. So there. Is this good enough? Ooh. Okay.
Sleeping, sleeping. Let the dog sleep. Okay. Next up, we have a red card. It is not a red green storm card, but it is a fantastic callback. So we have Flametongue Yearling. Flametongue Yearling, 2 red mana for a 2/1. It's got multi kicker of 2. Flametongue Yearling enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each time it was kicked. And when it enters the battlefield, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature. And we've got a sketch version there. So, Dan, what's this callback to? Where'd it come from?
Yeah, Blake, this is Flame Tongue Kalu from my old set knowledge is so hard. Odyssey, Plane Shift, Plane Shift.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to do this off my head. I should have wrote all this down beforehand, but whatever. So yeah, that was a 4 mana 4/2. When it entered the battlefield, you had to do 4 to a target creature. One of the and then the initials for that FTK lasted through many 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 years, and pretty much any creature that comes in to kill a thing we've called a Necrotal or an FTK for a long time. So as an
Hmm.
inspiration, here's a slightly smaller or slightly bigger Flametongue Kavu variant. Uh, Notably, still must target itself if you play it as the only creature on the battlefield. Not something that we generally like to do, but with this particular callback, just made sense. Usually, we would say up to one or an opponent's. But there's a pretty strong card, especially in a limited 2 mana 2/1 that does 2 when it enters. Yeah, it's just a strong one. It's going to do 3 for
Yeah,
4 mana, and you can do the math for going further.
yeah, very cool. All right, next up, so we've seen a lot of kind of spiky, powerful cards so far. The set's got some room for fun as well, and that includes some coin flipping. So next up, we have Yusri, Fortune's Flame. So this is a 2/3 flying or a freet for one, a blue, and a red. Whenever Yusri Fortune's Flame attacks, choose a number between 1 and 5. Flip that many coins. When you win a flip, you draw a card. When you lose a flip, you take 2 damage. If you win 5 flips this way, you may cast spells from your hand this turn without paying their mana cost. And if you notice, the one on the far right is the bundle promo. Yeah, so coin flipping, huh, Dan?
Like I said, there's a little something for everyone here. Every card in the set needs to be like a 100% tournament viable option for everybody. There's a lot of awesome, just whether it's hitting on nostalgia, hitting on just like pleasant gameplay, really cool implementation of a thing. Um, yeah, some people like flipping coins. This I'll let the cat out of the bag. There's somewhere between 1 and 5 coin flipping cards in the set. I hope that number's right. It's probably right. Uh, and this actually, yeah, it isn't weak by any stretch. It's 3 mana, 2/3 flying is fine. And then attack trigger, do the if you pick 5, which you should always pick 5, of course. You'll
Of
draw
course. Why
2 or
else is
3
this card in your
cards.
deck? Yeah.
Yeah, with a chance to cast them all for free. I have a cool story from that's not I don't know how cool it is, but this definitely happened in a draft when we were testing. Brian Howley, who at the time was the play design manager, was doing a draft with this, picked it. It was like, of course, I'm going to play this. It looks awesome. Plays it, attacks, chooses 5, takes 10, dies on the swing back. Very sad. But that's kind of the point. Like, it still made a story, right? It still created this moment in Magic where
hmm
people lost their minds, flipped the table, or no one flipped the table inside of the pit or anything. But it was really fun to see, and it's only up from there.
Yeah. And I'm sure no one ever is going to try to find any way to win all 5 flips with Crux Thumb or anything like that.
Who
Definitely
knows?
not going to happen. Who knows? All right. So that's it for the new cards that we have. We do have 3 reprints that we are going to go through. And we got about half an hour, so I expect that we're going to get to the Q&A section. So hold your questions for the time being. We are going to get to them when the little ticker at the bottom says Q&A. That's when we're going to do the Q&A. And we'll just start throwing questions at Dan and go from there. All right. So reprints. The first reprint is a card we get asked about reprinting a lot, and with good reason. Very powerful card, particularly in Commander, where mono black decks are going to like this card. That's your hint. Everybody knows what it is now. So let's go ahead and just show off Cabal Coffers. So Cabal Coffers is a land that for 2 and tap can add a black mana for each swamp you control. And then we've got the really like the gorgeous fire favorite borderless version on the right there. Uh, Dan, talk about adding Cabal Coffers to the set.
Yeah, I'll say that I haven't necessarily had the chance to see all the art for a lot of the extra stuff, like especially the borderless thing. That's really cool. I love seeing this. Is my first time seeing it actually, so love seeing
Mm-hmm.
that. I think that's the Mirari in the center, which is off to the right in the original. So I think it's the same
Mm-hmm.
vault, but anyway, it looks gorgeous as you say. Yeah, call Modern Horizons is another chance for us to kind of do stuff that just has been wanted for a long, long time. Uh, because modern can be a little bit more powerful, and we can have cards be a little bit pushing the edge a little bit more. So coffers started, just like Modern Horizons 1. We wanted to do a reprint sheet. Horizons sort of definitionally starting to mean some new cards, some old cards, all kind of new to format. So I think yeah, this was just a pretty obvious choice. We vetted it pretty well. Played a bunch of mono black control decks, a bunch of ramp decks.
Hmm.
You can use your Primeval Titan to find this in another one, or a new Urborg. You're always going to play with Urborg no matter what you're doing, I think.
Hmm.
And then um, yeah, it seemed like a reasonable modern power level inclusion. So we kept it the whole time, and yeah, so I'm excited to see what the world does with it. Are you going to Grey
Hmm.
Merchant people, or are you going to go up to Ulamog? I don't know. I don't know what the right path is. Hopefully, someone has some fun with that.
Yeah, whatever they do, it's going to look real good. Okay, so for the last two cards, we've been holding a little something back from all of you. There is an additional treatment that we haven't really talked about. It's not an additional treatment, but it's kind of an additional slot, I guess, is how to describe it. So there are a group of cards available in collector boosters that are retro versions of Modern Horizons 1 favorites, if everybody followed all of that. We're going to show you two of them today. So these ones are only available in collector boosters. Dan, what was the thinking before we show these off? What was the thinking behind including some Modern Horizons 1 favorites in the retro frame?
Yeah, we kind of wanted to pull out all the stops with this set. So, you saw some of the sketch cards earlier. You see some of these full bordered or borderless cards or alternate art cards. And also, we've shown some of the old frame stuff for this set, which I think we
Mm-hmm.
introduced in like, is it Time Spiral Remastered? Well, clearly introduced
Mm-hmm.
it millions of years ago, but brought it back for Time Spiral Remastered, and it's here. And we've chosen to include a swath of um, back by popular demand, I guess. Modern Horizons one's cards that we called them just favorites, stuff that
Mm-hmm.
people really got a kick out of the first time around, and yeah, the world could use some more of in a sweet old border retro frame.
Yeah. Well, let's look at the first one that we have today, which is Giver of Runes. So there's only one version of this, but you know her, you love her. It is a 1 mana, 1/2 core cleric creature that has the ability to tap another target creature you control gains protection from colorless or from the color of your choice until end of turn. So that already in modern, this is just kind of a bonus little reprint that you can get in collector boosters. And you know what? Let's just give the second one to chat right now because these are not new cards. We know them, we love them. Here it is: Force of Negation in the retro frame. Start drooling now. I want 12, please.
Boom.
Yeah, just let people take that in for a second. Yeah. So Dan, without giving too much away, how would you say the team went about selecting MH1 cards to get this treatment?
Yeah, I think for the most part it was just um, cards that have sort of proven themselves in the format. They were hits. They were doing cool stuff. They were index. Also, just kind of anything. I don't think it was just relegated to that only. I think if it just looked really cool in the frame, I think we also took some stabs at that direction as well. So a few different paths to get to be an MH1 retro frame inclusion.
All right. Cool. All right, so let's full previews start on Monday. That is when we will publish the our normal collecting article that'll talk about where you can get everything. But Dan, real quick, let's just go through each of the treatments and talk a little bit about what packs you can get them in. So let's just start with the retro frame Modern Horizons 2 cards. So we saw those with like Timeless Dragon, Rishdon Dockhand. Where can you get those treatments?
Oh, you're gonna quiz me on this thing. Okay, so the
I
retro
am.
frame, I have a cheat sheet. There's a lot of treatments, right? Like we said, we pulled all those stops, and there's collector set and draft boosters. So I believe the retro frame Modern Horizons 2 cards are available in collector boosters. Is that right?
And
Oh, there are
they,
more.
they can
Okay.
be, yeah, there's more. We're looking at the same notes here.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So these
All
can
of
be
the,
found in all versions of boosters in regular or regular foil. The bonus that collector boosters have different, they can have the foil etched treatment of the retro. So there's regular foil, there's foil etched. Collector boosters are the only place you can find the foil etched treatment, but both regular and regular foil can be found in the regular boosters. All right, I'll keep quizzing you, Dan.
okay,
Uh,
okay. I'll be ready. Better this one.
well, we said this one just a second ago. Retro Frame Modern Horizons 1 cards um, can only be found in collector boosters. That one's easy. Sketch cards. Where can players get sketch cards?
So these cards are in regular, all boosters, both foil and regular.
Yes, all boosters, foil and regular,
All
wherever.
boosters.
Good job. All
Thanks.
right. How about the borderless full art cards? So like the Cabal coffers that we saw.
I believe these are also all boosters. Am I wrong?
Uh, yes, regular foil,
I'm
all boosters.
regular and foil in all boosters for the borderless full art cards. Got it.
Yeah. And then finally, extended art rares. Where can you find extended art rares like we saw with also like Timeless Dragon?
So these should be exclusive to the collector boosters,
Ding,
and you
ding,
can get them both
ding.
regular and foil in that
Yep.
location.
Yep, that's like how we do it with most sets. The extender arts are some of the little bonuses you get for the collector boosters. Okay, that gets us through all that stuff. Chat, now is the time. If you have questions for Dan, if you have questions for me, put them in there. If you can tag it at Magic, that'll sort of help me see things. Because chat is moving real
Yeah.
fast. But yeah, if you have questions, stick them in there. We'll try to answer the ones that we can. Some we aren't able to. Okay, so when do previews start? That was a question I saw. Previews start on Monday. So we gave you a little taste today with 12 cards, but they start in earnest on Monday, the 24th. Dan, this is a question for you. What is
Okay.
your dog's name and how old are they?
This Mochi. Mochi is about 4 years old, right, Mochi? Yeah. Say hi. He's just chilling. This is where he works. This is where he makes magic cards. He's on the payroll.
Nice. Um, Here's a question: have we seen what the foil etched look like in this set? Not yet. We will be showing them off. Actually, I don't know if this is a regular foil. I have some of them. Oh, I don't, and I don't. I think that's a regular foil. Yeah, that's a regular foil. We will be showing them off on a video on social media, so watch our social media for that, and we'll get those out there. Um, are we getting any Modern Horizons 2 lore? I can answer this one. We're not. So there's not, unlike a standard legal release, there's not like a story behind Modern Horizons 2. There is a lot of lore behind like who Dagon is or who some of these characters are, but we're not going to have any new stories for that.
Accurate.
All right, here's a question for you, Dan. Is Merfolk going to be a fairly well supported tribe in MH2?
Yeah, that's pretty. That was one of the things we would like to have encouraged when we were making some of the cards. So, one of the strategies we employed to figure out, what cards we want to make was just find some cool decks in Modern that maybe haven't shined too brightly recently, and what kind of tools can we
Mm-hmm.
give them to, step their game up a little bit. So you saw the Dockhand there, Rosewater uh, appealed to your curious senses with a possible merfolk god, I believe, and who
Mm-hmm.
knows who knows what else is in there. But yes, yes,
Yep.
that was definitely an interest to us at the time.
Great. I saw a question that I wanted to ask. And that went away. Well, here's an easy one. Dan, of the cards we showed today, or the ones we showed at the debut, what's your favorite card that's been previewed so far?
My favorite card that's been previewed so far. Oh, geez. Okay. Hmm. I do like the Throsta Tempest Roar a lot. I played with that
Mm-hmm.
one a good amount. Like the dragon, the timeless dragon, the eternal dragon callback, just so I feel like it's perfect almost. It does the callback so well, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty it's strong. It's a strong card. I think it's gonna
Yeah.
see some play. Getting lands and making 4/4s, nothing wrong with that. But I
Yeah.
think, yeah, the giant dinosaur is my favorite card that y'all have seen so far.
I'm gonna say I'm also really partial to Timeless Dragon. That one gets me right in the Magic nostalgia button. And then Profane Tutor again, not necessarily because I'm itching to play it in a specific deck or a specific place, but the Richard Kane Ferguson art with the retro frame just again really brings me back to that era when I started playing Magic. Next question. So, can you show the eternalized token for Timeless Dragon? Producer Sean is sometimes magic. I don't know if he can pull this up. He'll let me know if he can, and we'll come back to it if we're able to. Let's see. Yeah, so he says he might be able to, but not just yet.
I
Can you
would
show
guess
us
it
more
looks
cards,
blue.
please? No. So we have a preview plan. If we started showing more cards, they would be other people's cards to preview, and we don't want to
Yeah.
start on those
Technically,
feet.
by the rules of the game, tokens don't count as cards, though.
True.
So,
That is true. So we can we
yeah,
can see
loophole.
if we got a token. Um, can you go over any more of the limited archetypes? Absolutely. Yes, we can do that. So we've talked about red green. We've talked about white black. What else? What else do we have, Dan?
Yeah, I don't know if we want to do the whole thing, but let's see if I can go
Yeah,
from
you know
top
what?
to
Do it.
bottom.
Let's go. Let's go
Okay,
nuts.
so blue white is affinity slash artifact matters stuff. So there's going to be some bunch of artifacts flying around, make your big stuff cheaper.
Hmm.
Let's see. Then connected to that a little bit is red white, which is also artifacts matters, but a more aggressive, like modular type build. So
Hmm.
you have some small modular creatures. Them dying is not a bad thing. They'll just keep powering up your next creature, and the train keeps going. Um, and then let's see. I don't even know what order I'm doing this in. So I did blue, white, blue, white, red. Uh, White green is +1/+1 counters matters. So the red white stuff you just talked about with the modular works really well with the white green stuff. You can get paid for various mechanics through Magic's history that care about counters, and all kind of, not all of them, but some of them making an appearance there to let it happen in different ways. Green, white. So white, black. We already said was the reanimator deck. Okay, now I start with blue.
Hmm.
Blue, white, blue, black. Blue, black is paying you for discarding cards. Modern likes to discard cards for lots of purposes. It works really well with the black, white reanimator thing that's right next to it. And, if you've discarded some number of cards in a turn, bonus, or, discarding cards for value for costs of cards and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Let's see, white, blue, blue, red. Blue, red is delirium. So finding ways, Modern has a lot of cards with multiple card types, whether they're like artifact creatures or enchantment creatures or you know some other multiple card types on cards, and then putting those in, getting a couple of those in your graveyard, and then getting paid by turning on extra effects on certain cards and creatures and stuff like that. And also, again, we try to make it so these like various limited archetypes work really well with the ones next to them. So pretty clear that like the Jeskai Wedge, right? If I care about artifacts and I care about Delirium, then I'm gonna have a lot of extra card types to toss in my graveyard. So it works well with
Hmm.
both red, white, and blue, white. Um. Okay, so blue, black, blue, green, blue, red. I already did red, green, and then finally there's green, blue. Is that the last one?
Sure. I'm
Okay,
sure
we'll say
Chad will
it's
let us
maybe
know if
maybe I
not.
forgot one. But green, blue is, for lack of a better term, junk, which means collect a bunch
Okay.
of random tokens. Oh, we didn't do black, green. Collect a bunch of random tokens and do something with them. Uh, I don't know. Do you want me to say like certain token types that are in the set, or should we leave that off the
Yeah,
table?
let's leave that to
Okay.
the to
Let's just
later.
say there's a higher number than usual number of token types in the set.
Hmm.
And I do have black, red, and green. Black, green. So black, red is madness. So the blue black deck sort of paid you for discarding, and one of the ways you can get paid for discarding is madness. So it ties really well with the black red deck, but it's more of an aggressive slant. Um, black red aggro / discard stuff to play it for cheaper.
Hmm.
And then black green is sort of a cares also about tokens, but not necessarily having a bunch of them. It cares about using them as a sacrifice to like buffer, buff some creatures and buff other effects. You think like sacrifice a blank or blank to get an extra, kill a creature or kill something or gain life, or yeah. So use your tokens to get paid.
Cool. All right. All right, let's show it. We got the Eternalized token. Producer Sean is magic. Here we go. There it is. Oh, that's really cool. Zombie dragon.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
It is blue. Well,
Yeah.
bluely covered in Lazatep.
Black, yeah. Cool. All right. A couple other questions that I've got written down. I am trying to keep up, chat. I'm missing so many questions, though. Apologize in advance. How many Modern Horizons 1 cards are there? I'm gonna say we can say this. Do you know? That's quiz for you, Dan. Do you know off the top of
How
your
many
head?
Modern Horizon wasn't cards are on that like the retro sheet thing?
Yeah, the ones that are
Question.
only in collector boosters.
Um, I don't know if I know the answer to that off the top
Okay,
of my
I know the
head.
answer, so I'll stop.
Okay, great.
It's
You tell
40.
me.
There are 40 for those of you playing along at home.
Good to
And then
know.
there was a request on do the foils of the retro ones have the shooting star? The answer is yes. I actually have a foil Dockhand here, so let me see if I can get that up there so you can see the shooting
Wow.
star. Yeah, so that is the retro frame Dockhand with the little shooting star at the bottom.
Beautiful.
There was another question about the watermark. Um, the question I saw talked about counterspell, but we also saw it on Kabal coffers. I'll show right here. What does the watermark signify, Dan?
Yeah, it's gonna have the reprints that are new to modern will have a watermark in their text box from the set they
Mm-hmm.
first came from. The set symbol of the set they first came from. For the thing like counterspell, there was no set symbol. Uh, did we what did we put a planeswalker symbol on that one? I can't remember. How did we solve that issue?
I know we probably put
Like an
we
A?
used the same as it might have been the A. We used the same as the 25th anniversary
Okay, that makes
one.
sense.
Yeah. All right. People asking about where the various treatments are. We kind of went over that a little bit earlier, but if you really want the crunchy details, stay tuned till Monday. That's when we'll have the collecting article, and it'll lay out everything you need to know about where you can find every little bit. All the questions about are we going to have this mechanic or this mechanic or this mechanic, where if the answer is probably yes. There's a lot of mechanics in this set, but you'll just have to stay tuned and see. We talked about the limited. Trying to catch up. Are there any cards with the actual storm mechanic in the set? You said it was an archetype. Is it the actual mechanic, or are we going to see sort of alternate versions of it like Throsta?
Yeah, so Storm's pretty scary, but There are both. So there, yes, there are going to be new cards with the word storm parentheses. If you know copy this for each spell you cast before it, and
Hmm.
there'll also be other payoffs such like the Throsta, where you cast a certain
Hmm.
number of spells in a turn, you get paid for that. So
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, it is.
New storm cards, haven't seen those. We made one in Modern Horizons 1. We made the Gain Life one. So
Hmm.
we'll see
Yep.
what else we came up with this time.
All right, I'm gonna try to ask one really like solid question before we go, and then we're gonna actually run through all of the previews again, just to give everyone a recap. So I'm searching for like that question that really gets to it. Oh, that's a good question. All right, Dan, what was one of the greatest boons for working with the pros who helped in development?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I think working on the inside for a long time without taking a lot of outside feedback, you can get a little siloed, or you know, um, you can bounce off each other. Just and it's dangerous to, but you can sometimes become an echo chamber. So having a bunch of fresh perspective from the outside world, people who've played real life modern, um, very recently, uh, was just the fresh perspective was probably the best thing that was brought to the table. I mean, all the people we work with are super super smart and talented, had great
Hmm.
ideas, but yeah, just coming in with three people with brand new, haven't ever seen any of this before, fresh. Um, yeah, that was really helpful.
Great. Cool. So I want to leave time for us to go through all of the cards we previewed again, real quick. Before we do that, just a reminder that previews start in full on Monday, the 24th. So that's where you'll start seeing previews around the internet. If you want to know where previews are coming from and when, there's an article on dailymtg.com called Where to Find Modern Horizons 2 Previews, which has links to all of the various outlets and people and whatnot that will be showing off cards and celebrating this wild set. But to begin today, let's go back through the 12 cards that we showed off. I'm not going to read through all of them again, but we had Dagon Shadow Slayer, which gets these three treatments: the regular, the borderless, and the sketch with the sweet Richard Kane Ferguson art. We have Timeless Dragon, the callback to Eternal Dragon. I also love that we didn't note this before, but it's got the grave, the headstone in the upper left hand corner, like
Yeah, we
flashback
fought for
cards
that.
used to have
Yeah.
back in the day. Yeah, I enjoy that. Then we have Rishadan Dockhand, the card that's making all the merfolk aficionados turn around and say, "Ooh, you." Then we've got
Mouth watering.
Grief. Yeah, yeah, Grief. Possibly, it's definitely in the running for most powerful card that we previewed today. A lot of excitement I've seen in chat on Twitter. This card is going to see quite a bit of play, and it is part of a cycle. Next up, we have Richard Ferguson's Profane Tutor, which has three different versions, including the clearly superior retro frame. Enjoy what you want. I love the retro frame with the Richard King Ferguson, but I'm old. Then we have Unmarked Grave, the play on Entomb that is slightly more fair. Then we have Flametongue Yearling, the callback to Flametongue Cavu. We've got Throsta, Tempests Roar, a big dinosaur with many words on it. And then we've got Yusri, Fortune's Flame, coin flipping, also the bundle promo. And then in the reprints department, Cabal Coffers is back and black and looking really good. I really like that Fire Favorites version right there. And then two reprints from Modern Horizons 1 in the retro frame: Giver of Runes and, of course, Force of Negation. And just a reminder, those last two are available only in collector boosters. Everything else is available in many places. But we're going to talk more about that on Monday. Thank you, Dan, for joining us and talking through so many cards.
Yeah, it's been
We
a
are going to be
blast. Thanks for
back.
having me.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be back next week to talk more about Modern Horizons 2, preview more cards with Aaron Forsyth, who came down from his lofty perch to actually work on this set, which is fantastic. So he's going to talk through a lot of what's going on in this set, preview some more cards. We'll have a good time. And then the week after that, Brad Nelson and Sam Black will be joining us to talk about their experiences working on this set, coming from outside the building and coming in with the pro player's mindset. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and we will see you next week.